Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? Okay, let's see some comments. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. You can start late, OP, in the chat once again. I'm sorry I had to cook for my children and then my earphones conked off. The exciting life that I lead on a regular basis. I wish I could tell you who's coming next week, but I don't know yet. As soon as I have an idea, I will tell you. And by the way, I'm not eating before the thing. My daughter just shoved something in my mouth, and I had to, because she was being nice about it. So yeah, you can't say no to your kids that way. Just random stuff. Hi, Vishwesh, Dub Sashi. Good morning. अब तो आदत सी हमको वेट करने की हो गई है. Says Kajol Agarwal, who's been upgraded to modern and all. Oh, Kajol Agarwal, nice to meet you also. Hello, Sorabh. Say hi, Harsh Tiwari. Hi, Maharishi, Jani. Hi, everybody. Okay. Just if you've never seen this show before, I'll just explain what's going to happen. I have two guests. One is the special guest, and one is my co-host. We're going to ask the person a lot of questions and pick their brains for all sorts of random information. And I'll try and take some questions from chat and especially super chat. Just to tell you that there is a very small chance that I may not be able to take all the super chats. So I'm telling you in advance that it's impossible to, they like 45, 50 sort of super chats. So it's kind of impossible. KV said on Twitter, he will love to join today. I will call KV. I was getting embarrassed. I was like, should I call KV for all of them or what? Because I would love to have KV for all of them. So I'll ask KV. 1 second. I have typed a message to KV asking him because again, our guest today is a legend in the quizzing industry and quizzing industry. Is it an industry? I don't know. So that's about it. Try to get Prasad Bhatt and Andy Rego. Andy Rego is going to come. I've already asked him. Ask Angad why his Twitter account is private. Okay, I will take your questions. I will take a super chat. Also, if you want to support the podcast, InstaMojo and PayPal is where it's at. People are still giving suggestions on how you can calculate 1 to 100. It's already solved, dude. We did it. It's all done. Okay, I want to bring on first of all my co-host. Please give a mental round of applause to my former friend, current enemy, and future lover, Mr. Angad Singh Ranial. Angad, please join us. Angad, कैसा है दोस्त? एक सेकंड.
मैं बढ़िया. तू कैसा है?
बिल्कुल मस्त यार. क्या कर रहा है?
I like first of all तूने सेटअप कर दिया कि पैसा दोगे तभी सवाल पूछे जाएंगे.
नहीं रे, ऐसा नहीं है. It's just that too many questions get asked. You know, I mean, I know that on your YouTube live you may not be familiar with that. Needless comments. But yeah, so Angad is here. Angad is going to be co-hosting with me, and we'll ask lots of questions. Angad has already got lots of questions ready.
Yeah, lots. I think too many.
हाँ, तो ये प्रॉब्लम होती है यार. हाँ, बोलना.
नहीं कुछ नहीं. I just feel like मतलब I have a pressure. I feel like that this should be worth Joy sir's time. Like he should feel like हाँ मैंने अपनी सुबह उठकर मैं नहाया धोया, मैंने टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करा इन लोगों के साथ. Like I am nervous for him.
But no, I want to tell him in advance that it will not be worth his time. That's the guarantee I've already given. So as you can see, Angad has a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. So I'll try and take as much super chat as we can. पर अगर miss हो जाए तो माफ कर लेना बस. All right, I want to introduce our guest for today. He was a former team director of Kolkata Knight Riders. He was the head of production for ESPN Star Sports for a while. He was also in charge of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. All sorts of crazy things. And he's also a very famous quizzer. Please give mental round of applause to Joy Bhattacharya, everybody.
Why do you say every time mental round of applause? People can give it in their house. People can do it in their own homes.
ये भी है. This is a good point you have made about semantics. We'll have Joy coming up. Angad OP, if quizzing is an interest, Major Chandrakant Nair can be called. The idea of getting quiz masters on a podcast is. I just saw a TEDx talk delivered by Joy Bhattacharya about
even
quizzing.
I saw that about quizzing. The passion that quizzers have. Because even the question he asked in the TED talk, मुझे उसका आंसर भी नहीं पता था. Though he was trying to explain that logically you can reach. I'm like, हाँ sir, but एक basic knowledge भी तो चाहिए ना पहुंचने.
Sir, if you can switch on your video whenever you are ready, we'll just keep talking till then, no problem. Yeah, एक तो सवाल था.
I think it's
on my video because you can't. You seem to switch it off.
Manu, can you just as a host allow?
Video. Sorry about that. Have you got the ask to start video? There
Yes.
you are.
Well done, well done.
Oh,
I
look
just
at
thought
the...
it was a screen.
No. It's just purely audio. No.
And look at Sir's frame. It almost seems like a pretentious cricket review is going to happen today for 3 people who will get that joke.
The books at the back is always the best background, I've realized. It's always the best background.
Look, this is the only thing that I've literally not had to prepare for the last 20 years. I'm a boy. We have very middle class aspirations, books, movies. So nowadays, those are the only things that I've actually managed to get together. So that's what. So these are the books that are properly arranged. There are books in piles on top of beds. There are books hidden under places. So I spend half my time sort of moving books to more convenient places.
Do you have a system of like how you like to arrange them?
I've tried all sorts of systems. They all break down. Once you start picking them out and then started putting them back, I never put them back in the right place. But I seem to normally find books I want to find. But yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, this is already. By the way, we both of us just saw your TEDx talk about quizzing, and the question. Do you want to ask that question about the Prime Minister, the 21-year-old Prime Minister thing, which is a great like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a standard quiz question to get anyone's attention, which is to turn around and ask that which Indian became the Prime Minister before celebrating his 5th birthday. And the whole point of it is in asking how you ask the question. Because you say before celebrating his 5th birthday, so people say he can't be 5-year-old. Then they say, no, Kashmir ka Prime Minister hoga, and Sadar-e-Russia. I mean, they go through all the options possible. And then you realize that basically all it means is that the guy was born in a leap year. And Morarji Desai, and that's the other. So Morarji Desai was born the 29th of February. So that's how he was he was actually 80 years old, but in effect, he was about 19 years old when this thing came about. So yeah.
I thought it was 21st birthday.
21st birthday.
Yeah, 21st. It was 21st. It was 1876, I think.
No, you said 5th birthday. So I was doing the maths. Like, is this a twist on that where it's like this is a 20-year-old Morarji?
No, 21st birthday, not 5th birthday. I'm just nervous seeing you, man. It's one of those.
No, we are very excited to have you because I've been the introduction to you, by the way. I'm 38 years old, so I think I wasn't massively into quizzing. My introduction to you was that Gaurav Kapoor podcast that you did, 22 Yarns, which is a terrific podcast, which I just everybody should listen to. I really enjoyed it, and then I just started stalking you everywhere, and I'm like, what a fascinating person! Because on Twitter every day you put out one factoid about something or the other, and I'm like, what he was speaking? This is amazing information. So really loving it.
So actually, if you're interested, today's interesting one is that 2 things I was looking at. One is that it's Andy Warhol's birthday, and I mean anyone who can paint soup cans and actually make art out of it is a boss. Okay.
Right.
But the more interesting part is that Andy had this whole 15 days. Everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. So basically, social media, whatever you have. I mean, that's really he predicted it in 1968. He said, in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. So just make that viral video and you're going to be famous. But the great part about it, he was attacked by a woman and very badly wounded by a woman called Valerie Solanas. And the best part is the organization she belonged to is called SCUM. So SCUM literally stood for Society for Cutting Up Men, So, I don't know. It was a good one. So I was quite interested. And after a long time reading up about Valerie Solanas and this guy, Warhol also, they had this famous Rolling Stones cover which he designed, which has a banana on the cover. Oh, no, that wasn't Rolling Stones. That was, the other group? Nico and Velvet Underground. Sorry, not Rolling Stones, Velvet Underground.
See, Joy sir, even if you are wrong with us, we wouldn't be able to point it out. So you can just go with the flow.
There are enough quizzes out there. There are very few of us. I was beginning to say, you said quizzing is an industry. It's a cottage industry. There are not that many of us. But those that are there are so hardcore, it's not funny. It is not funny.
Yeah, but like you could have literally said like Kishore Kumar or Baba Sehgal, and we're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we'll be surprised by that information. There's no way we can verify.
But how did your interest in quizzing start? Like, do you remember the first quiz you were part of?
Actually, quizzing is one of those things. I mean, you get into it because you're just interested in things around you and all. So I used to live in one of these high-rise buildings in Calcutta. And as you know, in those days, RWA uncles did better things than tell people off. They'd actually organize social functions and all that. So one of the things they organized was one of these quizzes on Saraswati Puja is this big time in Calcutta, where everyone gets together. So it's basically Saraswati Puja is this puja is around Jan-Feb. And it's a Bengali, it was St. Valentine's Day much before Valentine's Day, because that's the day you were not supposed to study and you could go out and you could actually talk to girls without having yourself killed or something in bargain. So then one of those days, one of these quizzes were organized and we happened to win it by chance, and that's where it all started. But I mean, quizzing, my only point is that there is a very real danger of taking quizzing far too seriously than you should. And that's something you've always got to warn yourself against.
So Kumar Varun, who's a friend of ours, he does a lot of quizzing, and we were driving we were going to XLRI to do a show. And he's like, hey, do you want to do a quiz? I'm like, yeah, why not? And then literally 3.5 hours of just quizzing. And after a point, he's like, dude, I'm exhausted. I'm like, let's keep going. You started this, now don't stop right now. So somebody just asked in the comments, Sai Mani Deep Malik Arjuna. Sorry, please call Varun Thakur as well. I'm going to ping Varun Thakur and KV if they want to pop in and ask just a couple of questions. Maybe they'll come towards the end. Okay, let's talk about this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, the prime thing is KKR. But we can come to that a little later. I wanted to actually ask you about the FIFA Under-17 World Cup, which was which year? And you were the main
manager.
I was there, and there was this absolutely mad Chilean guy called Javier Chepi. And Javier is this absolutely amazing guy. He's a super guy. He's actually around your age. He could be a couple of years younger to you. And this dude he's really hardcore into football. So at that time, I remember, I think it was Man City or somebody had a Chilean manager, which was the only other Chilean player I knew was currently around. So about the first 3 days I met him, I'm trying to make conversation. We are on a flight around India trying to look at World Cup locations. And I say that, this manager, have you heard of him? He looked at me, turned around and said, I hate him. I never want to see him ever in my life. So I said, okay, fine. That wasn't the greatest conversational starting point. And he said, basically in 1988, that guy had left the club that Javier was a player then and left the club. Javier managed to go to another club without finishing a season, or he took time off at that time and his team got relegated. Javier's team got relegated. By the tone in his voice, I could make out that for the next 3 generations, this will not be. So that's how they look at their football. So he was there and I was there. So there's one mad Chilean, one mad bomb. And then we walk into this great office, which was when we go to meet. And let me tell you, in India, the sports ministry is the poorest of ministries, because in India, all government ministries are judged by how much money you make or spend. Sport is like how much defense spends in 8 hours, sports spends in a year. So you get the dregs. So there that day we walk in there and there's this one man sitting out there and he's sort of quietly, he's wearing those chappal kind of shoes, those shoes with, they look like, they're chappals actually, but they look like shoes in front. And he's digging his nose very fastidiously. And they're trying not to look at him. And we are sort of, yes, sir. So he said, तो आप लोग FIFA World Cup के लिए आए हैं? I said, हाँ sir, FIFA World Cup के लिए. And Javier doesn't understand Hindi then. Of course, by the end of the World Cup, he understood enough Hindi to do anything. So he's saying, तो इंडिया का टीम है ना, हम होस्ट है. I said, हाँ sir, host है. He said, फिर वो FIFA लोग को बता दीजिएगा, इंडिया का 2 टीम होना चाहिए, India A और India B होना चाहिए. So when Javier hears this India A and India B, he's like, what? I said, no, relax, Javier, nothing. I said, हाँ sir, पूछ लेंगे, कोई प्रॉब्लम क्या है, 2 ही टीम करवाना है ना वर्ल्ड कप के लिए, करवा देंगे सर. So he said, हाँ आप बता दो, ये करवा देंगे. So that was where we started off trying to do the World Cup. And then 3 years we had this absolutely roller coaster journey. See, what we did was very early on we figured out that, as I've said before, that there are too many stakeholders. There's central government. There's All India Football Federation. There's FIFA, which is like a bloody government in itself. Okay, there is state governments, because all our stadiums are in different states. So there's Mamata Banerjee, there's the Goa government, there's the Assam government, there's the Delhi government. Who do you make happy? So after a while, we figured out that you can't make all these people happy. Our first proper board meeting, it took us 7 months to organize just getting all the constituents together who needed to be there. So we figured out that this is impossible. So after that, we said, the only thing we can do is try and do as good a World Cup as possible and listen to no one. So when FIFA asked us something that they wanted, which we couldn't do, we'd say we'd love to do it, but this, central government is stopping us. Sports ministry is stopping us. Sports ministry wants something that FIFA. When they wouldn't believe us, Javier would sit and write FIFA rules. So Javier has written more FIFA rules than there are in the rule book of FIFA. Sir, clause 327.5 mein likha hai ki you can't do this. Nahi to sir kar hi lete na aapke. This is how we did a World Cup, but it was quite amazing.
But so it took 3 years of planning to get it like.
3 years of planning is what you require to do. It actually requires 7, 8, 10 years of planning. We were lucky because the 2010 games, a lot of the stadiums were reasonably new. Okay, but to do an event properly, to do a senior World Cup, for example, you're looking at 10, 12 years of planning. It's serious stuff. And if it's done well, I mean, look at Olympics 84, for example, the first time it was really done well. Olympics 2012, really done well. It requires planning, it requires time.
But there's also that old thing, right, about the organizers of any of these events, whether it's like, I mean, the FIFA, I'm assuming that like everybody who organizes the FIFA World Cup or the Olympics, the country or the city that's organizing it thinks that the benefits are going to be proportionally higher than they actually are. And sometimes it's actually detrimental to the city and the state. Is there any truth to that or no?
No, there's absolutely truth to that. Montreal, which did the 1976 Olympics, Summer Olympics, Canada didn't win a single gold medal. It's the only case in history where the host never won a single gold medal in the Olympics. They are still paying off the debt because the city was simply not big enough to organize it. So look, the cities who did this right was London, 2012, who planned it to a T, who made sure that they squeezed every 1 rupee out of it, every pound out of it, and made sure that it worked for the future. So London, for example, is a great planning. Beijing, 2008, the Chinese didn't care. They just spent as much money as it took. But even places like Athens is struggling. Yeah. Sydney is actually a booming state, Australia. Sydney is struggling with the debt of the Olympics. So Brazil, don't even talk about it. The Olympics, the World Cup, both of them have been disasters for them financially. So a lot of doing big events is about planning it smartly. See, in India or in many parts of the world, the same thing happens. I remember when we were in ESPN Star Sports, we used to, you bid for tournaments. So you bid for the World Cup, the World Cups and all that. So suppose I am a manager. I'm not a manager. I'm head of sales in, say, ESPN. I need to bid for the World Cup. What will I do? My thing is that my job, or I have something really good to sell only if the World Cup comes. So they'll tell me, boss, how much do you think we'll sell in year 5? It's called an LRP, long range projections. So you said, we'll sell $500 million worth in year 5. Okay. Year 1, you will keep it modest so that you're at least close to the mark. Now, the point is that once you get the event, firstly, आपके लिए तो 4 साल तो कोई problem नहीं है. आप तो करते जाओगे काम ना. First World Cup you'll do. So till then, nobody's going to ask you what's going to happen. Okay. Secondly, by that time, if you didn't anyway bid for the World Cup, you wouldn't have a job anyway. You wouldn't have enough money, enough stuff to sell. So basically, all these, Olympics and all are done by guys who are turning around and saying कि यार क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर बाद में 20 साल बाद और 10 years later somebody finds successful क्या फर्क पड़ा है मैं तो World Cup और Olympics करके निकल गया ना हाँ so it's so funny 90% of decision making is dependent on people who need that event to happen to be important so afterwards what happens they really don't care and that's so true in most of management in so many areas it's not funny.
I'm just imagining 1976, the Canadians were just too polite to let other people lose. I'm just imagining no, you go ahead, please. This is Canadian Mehman Nawazi. Angad, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the FIFA World Cup. How did you ensure audience coming in? Because I understand there is some states where there is crazy following for football, but not across the country. So how did you manage to do that?
So it's funny, what we did was, we put a premium on it. We said it's the best football you will see. And what we did was we said, look at some of the guys who've come out of the under-17. So there was Neymar, There was Ronaldinho, Neymar. It's a who's who of footballers have come in through. So, for example, the guys you're seeing now playing, the guy Manchester United is desperate to sign now, Jadon Sancho. Okay, he played for the Under-17 World Cup for England. Okay, Phil Foden is now a top prospect in City. Okay, Ryan Booster is playing for Liverpool. So all these guys have actually. So you're saying you will see them before they become stars. The other thing we did was FIFA has a great way of selling tickets. They start selling tickets right in April for a tournament in October. So when you first buy, it's on discount, but you don't actually sell anything other than the finals are being held here. You don't even know which teams are going to play. So you're buying tickets which you just know that they're going to be 4 matches and a semi-final or a final. And they sell it by parts, and it just bloody works here. And what we did was we did not a smart thing. It's also something we believed in. 1911, there was a Mohun Bagan team that won the BT Yorkshire Regiment. That's the first real Indian team that's beaten a British team. And we made the first sale of a ticket. Carles Puyol came and gave the first ticket to the granddaughter of the great-granddaughter, actually, in many ways, of the guy who captained that team. And we started the ticket sale at 1911 hours, 7:11 in the evening. It's symbolic, but it was really important for people that FIFA also cared about what Indian sentiments were. So that was one. Calcutta was full through, And do you know that in total numbers, there were more people who watched the FIFA World Cup in the stadium than watched the 2011 Cricket World Cup, which is a bizarre number.
I mean, in the stadium?
In the stadium, yeah. Over in television, there's no comparison at all, but in the stadium, there were more people who watched it. See, also what we did was, we played the big venues, was Calcutta, Kerala, where Brazil was playing, where Kolkata was playing, where England was playing. Calcutta would be filled anyway. Smaller places are smaller venues like Goa and all, and we got good, decent crowds, man. Very decent crowds, and all of them talk about it. It was a fabulous tournament. And the best part was we played in Delhi. Indian team was playing there, so we obviously got a lot of support and people coming in. And we were playing Colombia, and we scored against Colombia, and they scored first, and then we equalized. That's the first ever and so far only World Cup goal we've scored. And then, unfortunately, within 2 minutes, we scored again because our players got too excited. Our kids were not. And 70,000 spectators there, they were in the stands, and the players, as they were walking out, and Delhi, a proper North Indian Delhi stadium, instead of, booing or this thing, they were slowly singing Hum Honge Kamyab. And it was like bloody goose pimples, man. It was too much. It was just superb.
But what you said about that, you can watch the youngsters now before they become big is something we do in comedy also. Like that is how Sorabh introduced me on the stage first time. कि आज इसको free में देख लो, फिर बाद में पैसे देने पड़ेंगे.
Exactly, बहुत पैसे देने. So it reminds me, when I started my television career, I was working on a show which was in a company called BITV, which was the equivalent of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's actually called a $64,000 question, 1 crore question. Okay, so anyway, the show never got made. It got made, but never got aired. So the producer was a chap from this company called Fremantle, which is this big game show producer. This guy's name, Bob Merrill, his name was. He was the drummer, terrific drummer. Okay. So he used to play for some rock bands called Lindisfarne and all when he was a kid. So I said, man, have you played with famous guys or not? So he says, I've played with famous guys, but the best story is that my mother, we used to practice at my house because my house was the most isolated, so nobody would get disturbed. And my mother used to be very, very, very good to everyone who came over, and they said, God knows what's going to happen. So I used to ask my mother. Mother said, who knows who's going to become a superstar? There's only one guy who she thought that, this guy's never going to make it. His name was Mark Knopfler, basically. So she was the only guy she was not nice to. Only guy she was not nice to. She said, "Itne bande aaye mere ghar mein." Mark Knopfler was the one guy. My mother said कि इससे कुछ नहीं होगा.
Did Mark Knopfler write those lyrics, "Money for nothing and chicks for free," about that guy's grandmom? Because that's a weird story there.
I don't know. It was too funny. He said that if there's one person she had to be nice to, he missed the chance anyway.
Also, the Under-17 World Cup is the same one, right? Where Kolkata unveiled that Maradona statue. Maradona or Ronaldo statue?
Never Maradona statue. There's a very strange statue of 2 legs and a ball on top of it, which looks like a globe. Do not ask me what it is, because Many bigger people than me, many FIFA heads have looked at it and wondered what it is. Nobody knows it yet.
Oh, I remember it got a lot of negative attention at that point.
Yeah.
It is a monstrosity. We have looked at it and we have wondered what it is. But it's a strangest statue that you'll see in your life, and it's otherwise a sexy stadium. It's an absolutely superb stadium. So it's a strange one when you look at that one.
Okay, we've got a question which is from Rajat Gupta. This is something I was anyway planning to ask you. Joy sir has also served as the CEO of Pro Volleyball League. Ask him about the politics with the federation. Straight to the point. He's like, mujhe seedha gossip chahiye. Like no time for anything else.
How many hours do you have?
We have as much time as you're willing to give us. We have nothing to do.
I just want to tell you that, we curse cricket and the politics in cricket. Let me tell you one thing. Cricket is what I call it's like high functioning political. So like high functioning alcoholic hota hai, high functioning political. That means there's a lot of politics in cricket, but they don't allow it to interfere with the game. So the game goes on, NC goes on, training goes on, new players are selected, everything happens. So they are high functioning politics, like high functioning alcoholics. Most of the other federations are poorer, worse, the stakes are even lower, and they're atrocious. And federations are basically what is stopping Indian sport for all these years. Speak to Abhinav Bindra, which is also why you see we do well in cricket, we do well in individual sport, because one person to stop is very difficult. But given the kind of federations we have, it's almost impossible to beat teams. And most of the people who have done it despite the system. Look, they're honorable mentions. I think the AFF with the World Cup, I've worked with them. They did some very good stuff. There are some people who want to do stuff. But overall, Indian sport has the worst possible administrators you can ever imagine. And it's just so true. I mean, volleyball, we're going through now court case after court case because somebody wants a bribe, somebody doesn't want to be paid under the table. We don't do business that way. Most importantly, sponsors don't do business that way, boss. I mean, those days are gone. So it's a circus, and dealing with these people is one of my biggest bugbears. That trying to expose these people or trying to create. See, one of the good things is take a look at the IPL. Some of the things the IPL has done. Suppose you are Ashok Dinda, you're out of favor with the Bengal selectors. Now, a selector may or may not like you. Now, he came to the KKR camp. He didn't even come to the KKR camp in year one as a player. He came as a net bowler. He bowled well in the nets. The coach said, we should try him out, put him in the squad of 25. He came into the squad of 25. And on the first day, he bowled the first ever ball for KKR in the IPL. Yeah. Now, when he's done that, and he's bowling there at 140 consistently, a Bengal selector also can't afford not to pick him because somebody turned and said, dude, I've seen that guy bowl. You need to tell me all your bowlers are better than him. So what you've created when you've done the IPL is you've created a separate special system where somebody will pick you on merit, because the IPL teams don't care which state you come from. They'll pick you on merit. And if then your state doesn't recognize you, they'll turn around and say, why the hell is this guy not getting picked? Dinda after that went on to play for India. He also went on to give away more runs in the slog overs than anyone in the history of mankind, but that's a different matter. He was good enough to play for India, and from a stage when he was not playing for Bengal, thanks to there being an independent. So that's the one thing, that even in a place like cricket, where there is a tension, having independent things like an IPL creates systems where they don't depend on others.
This is a quote of yours that I'd actually marked, which is said, where you said the IPL has saved players from the tyranny of state selectors, which I thought was a very interesting quote.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone in Indian sport mostly is about power. There are lots of honorable exceptions, don't get me wrong. There are good people everywhere, and that's what I'm amazed at. Everywhere I go, you see 20 officials who you want to cry saying, and you'll see these two guys who say, dude, this state survives because of these two guys. They're the kind of guys who have 5 kids at home, who they are feeding because there's nobody to feed them, 3 people who they're getting shoes for. These are the kind of guys. Those are the unknown heroes of Indian sport. And every time I see them, I say, dude, this is why any sport survives in our country.
Because of a few people. But just generally asking, I mean, sure, IPL has helped players, in terms of when selectors are not looking at them. But there is also this negative sentiment attached, especially with purists who feel like the young kids who are now training to become cricketers, their focus is कि बस IPL खेलना है, and they don't care about Test cricket.
No, it's absolutely true. It is true, and I don't deny it, because look at it here. Logically, cricketers, all sportsmen have wear and tear. Okay, so the question is, गाड़ी है, आप अच्छे maintain कर सकते हो, but आप 50,000 किलोमीटर चलाओगे तो ज़्यादा घिसेगा, 20,000 चलाओगे तो कम घिसेगा, right? So the point of it is your bodies can take only so much. So all these guys are saying, if I can play 3 T20 leagues, if I can play the IPL and 2 other T20 leagues, I am putting less wear and tear on my body than doing it any other way. Now, is this right for Indian cricket? I don't think it is, but it's not for me to decide. That dude is saying, boss, forget about playing cricket, not playing cricket. I've come so far. I want to make a living out of it. And if T20 cricket allows me to make a living without doing it, I can't stop him. I would love to see more Test cricketers emerge, but the way the system is organized, the other thing, remember, if we didn't have this T20 cricket today, Test cricket wouldn't have survived. Basically, all your first-class matches today are being sponsored by the IPL and the international T20 and one-day matches. So even the money that is going to pay Ranji Trophy cricketers is coming from that pot. Where is Ranji Trophy making money? It's making money from there. It's not making money from here. So that's a problem. Is it a problem? Yes, I believe it is a problem. Will we have people's skills deteriorate perhaps in the 5-day game? Yes, you will. What do you do? I mean, that's economics here.
And also there is a higher probability of getting selected into a T20 team than a national team. So if you try to build yourself thinking कि चलो मैं सिर्फ T20 player बनूंगा, there is still some probability of success, a higher probability of success.
Yeah, and exactly. You're talking about, take, say, if you assume even 8 teams right now, okay, there are at least 20. So there are 160 Indian players who are going to get picked up whether you like it or not. 160 or 150 players is a lot. So getting into 150 is easier than getting into, say, 12 or 15 Indian team.
Yeah. And then you can be a net baller and then get selected into the team. So you never know.
Who knows? In fact, the crazy story about the IPL is there was a bloke who won a super over for Rajasthan against us in 2009, in that, where KKR's most desperate year, where we lost everything. He won a match on the super over. He bowled the super, won a match. In 2014, he was a net bowler in a KKR camp in Hyderabad. That also happens.
Okay.
Don't remember that, T20 cricket or IPL cricket is also very cruel. It'll put you on the top one day, but it can just as easily send you right back again the next day.
Was this is the guy who used to bowl for RR, that slingy guy. What is his name?
I don't want to take names.
That's true.
He has a shady action.
But that, what I feel is also how fans of the game are. Like Anderson and Broad both have taken more than 500 wickets. They have one bad day with Pakistan, like literally one bad spell. And all the fans are going, inki umar ho gayi hai, they should retire. The same fans who would support their selection during West Indies now are like, they should retire after one spell.
वैसे all the people who are saying that are Indians who are commenting, they're saying, अरे पाकिस्तान को पहले दिन में पहले घंटे में all out क्यों नहीं किया इन लोग ने? Like that's the complaint, which is on another level only.
It's absolutely that. And in fact, the point of it is that Cricinfo, in fact, at one time, I mean, the only fans who are worse than us on Cricinfo used to be the Bangladesh fans, because their comments were even more than ours. So, like KKR match happening, it did not matter whether the rest of the team has performed, not performed. If Shakib has not played well or Shakib has not been given man of the match or whatever, that was it. I mean, that's life. Yeah, you have one hero, you want to look after him. And Bengalis, anyway, we were born to be emotional, over-the-top creatures. So, kaun sa pragmatism? Where are you expecting pragmatism from us?
Okay, I'll just say a couple of comments. A lot of people who are very big fans of yours. Sankalp Kuram has said, big fan of Joy sir, love his analysis on Cricbuzz live. Then Utkarsh Thakur says, always loved Joy sir's classes. He was amazing marketing, branding, sports and advertising insights. Okay, this is a question which you answered a bunch of times before, but I mean, it was inevitable that this question would come up, so let's just take it up. Akshay Nathu asked, Joy sir has terrific insights on how he analyzes IPL captains. different methods of leadership adopted. I think you've spoken about a lot of this in that podcast with GK, but I mean, I'm still always, I've listened to that podcast, by the way, 3 times and I still enjoy it. But if you want to share any of that or any other specifics, also happy to.
No, absolutely. No, I think that's what great captaincy is about. I mean, it's about building, say, firstly, the character of the team around the character of the captain. And as I said, in good times, captains, you take, say, a Gautam Gambhir. I mean, he's not a Mr. Cool, as I said. He's not a guy who's going to be cool, but he's very sincere. So the whole character of the KKR team became, we are a team who stands up for their teammates. We are a team who's going to take a bullet ahead of it. That's a very different team, say, from a Dhoni team. A Dhoni team is a cool team. Chill. Their meetings used to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes before a game. They used to spend more time after the game they do interesting things. They'd have a poem, they do other stuff around it. Because it was a team that said, all our veteran players, they know their roles. Let them play their game. Let's get on. It's a cool team. So every team has that very different identity. And say,
sorry to interrupt you. What did CSK do? What they did poems after the match?
Yeah, they've done many things. So they'd get one guy in the squad to write a poem after every match, and that guy would recite it. They had a team song that they'd sing after together. And they do all sorts of interesting things. KKR has done many things as well. And so the other, I don't know if I've ever spoken about it, but the other thing about it is, how do teams give punishments? How do you punish a player? See, you need to maintain a serious amount of discipline. So you have a situation where, you're going literally minute to minute to minute. So now, if a team, guys don't arrive on a team bus on time, you're going to be shambolic. You have flights to catch in an IPL, typical IPL season, and this is not a typical IPL season. You'll be catching 20 flights during that time. You'll be going to practices. The buses will be there. Every day a bus will be there for some reason or the other. So how do you make sure guys come on time? So you give a time, say 5 o'clock. So 5 o'clock, if you don't come, if you have no fine at all, guys will land in 5:10, 5:15. Can't do anything about it. So then you say you put a fine. Say you put $1,000 a minute fine. That sounds like a lot. What is 5,000 rupees for Sorabh Ganguly or Chris Gayle? Correct? So after a while, we figured out that while the incentive was for an Iqbal Abdullah, that's a lot of money to waste. For a Sorabh Ganguly, it's a 5 minute so lete hain. Kya fark pata hai? 5,000 rupees, So then how do you deal with that? So then the final tactics, which was fantastic. So you said, okay, we're going to have, if anyone is late, there's a physical punishment. But here's the catch. The punishment does not happen to the guy who's actually made the infraction. It is to the rest of the team. So it was a very clever one. So suppose say Chris Gayle is 5 minutes late. We all get onto the bus, go to the stadium, and then the coach or captain will ask Chris Gayle, okay, Chris, will the team do 20 push-ups or run around the ground 3 times? He has to decide what they do. So he says, okay, 20 push-ups. So all the other guys, other than Chris Gayle, so Chris Gayle has to stand and watch. All the other guys will do 20 push-ups. Okay? And I can tell you that that's the one thing that stops everyone from coming late. Because what you have done is you have actually made it about being that you become the villain of the team. So you see, so far, you were never bothered about paying a fine yourself. But now here, 25 other guys are doing push-ups because you were late. Changes things immediately. So those are the kind of things a good captain comes up with and thinks through. And a good coach sort of works with him to make these things happen.
I would assume that Kohli would love punishment like this because pura team fit ho raha hai and he would always come late so that everybody gets to do 50 push-ups.
Yeah, especially if you're a sadistic person. If you're a sadistic person, you make sure you're 15 minutes late just to listen, I hate to cover this topic, but it's one of my favorite topics right now is, I know that you're not supposed to fat shame or whatever, but who's the West Indian spinner right now? The Cornwall. Yeah, there is no way that he would make it to the Indian team because of the yo-yo test, right? There's absolutely no chance in hell. And so, as a 19 players would be late just to make him do push-ups or run around the ground 3 times. just to see that happen. That's what my assumption is.
But Mumbai Indian also had something similar to the lines of what Joyce has said. Netflix, they made the show because people like us get to know about IPL because people like you come or talk, or Netflix pays Mumbai Indian a lot of money. And over there, they had a pajama dress that you had to wear if you were late. So they got a very weird looking shorts and a pajama, and then you have to take your flight in those clothes while everybody else is wearing the proper apparel. So that was the sort of punishment you had.
Yeah. The Deccan Chargers used to, for a very long time, they used to have, and this is a pretty common one, such a big, huge teddy bear. Okay. Which the player who committed the most penalties would carry around, and it's the most embarrassing thing. It's a huge teddy bear. It's got red ribbons around it and all, and you're like you're this dude of a player, wearing cool shades and all that. Like teddy bear, pakad kar aap chal rahe ho, but you have to play. The players used to get completely spooked out. Seeing a Hardik Pandya with a teddy bear, poor guy. So that is something that used to also work. See, that's with players. You have to give to them the currency that means something to them. Embarrassments mean something to them. Letting their teammates mean something to them. So a lot of how you inspire players is about how you figuring out how they think, man.
Yeah. And also, I think make it fun as opposed to something as you said, the fines are very interesting to me because I was assuming at a time when everybody was at roughly the same pay scale, which is ages back, it would probably work where it's like 500 rupees if you're 10 minutes late. Now, so it's virtually impossible. Okay, lots of questions coming in. This is just a random question. Somebody's asking you, when are you doing Cricbuzz live again? That's a question.
The moment the IPL starts, we're just waiting for the IPL to start. 100% Cricbuzz live will be back. So just waiting for the IPL to start.
Angad, do you have any questions? There's a lot of questions here, so I
have a question around Gautam Gambhir. So Gautam Gambhir, I suppose, was one of the players during when you were planning for auction when you selected as a captain. But who apart from Gautam were you planning to see, or it was just Gautam that no matter, even if he's for 25 crores, we'll just go for him?
So interestingly, we decided very early that we wanted 2 Indian batsmen, and we were targeting Gautam Gambhir and one other batsman. I mean, it could have been Yuvraj, it could have been Yusuf. The other one, we wanted Gautam. And if our plan was that if Gautam went out of hand, totally went out of hand, then we'd probably look at somebody like a David Hussey. As it turned out, Hussey also went for a serious amount of money himself. So none of that would matter. But the thing was that it was about having a guy we trusted and believed in. And Gautam just worked. I mean, Gautam also, I'll tell you one thing. The most basic thing, one of the things that you remember, which is very important in any IPL season or any team, is what I call PTP. PTP is point to prove. Gautam had just been the captain of Delhi, where the season before they were 7-4. They'd won 7 and lost 4 matches. They were a very good team. Somehow they lost the last 3. And just on the basic of run rate, they did not qualify for the semi-finals. Okay. And then he was not retained and Sehwag was retained. So Gautam had a point to prove. And that's what I say again. When you're going to look at this year's IPL, nobody can tell what the result is. But I can assure you that MS Dhoni and CSK have what we call PTP, point to prove. Everyone's saying they're too old, Dhoni's career is over. There's serious point to prove there. And that is always an added incentive for a team.
But Gambhir is he's a player's player. I mean, his support for Navdeep Saini also throughout. So it just shows you that he's. Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's not just a player's player. He's taken players. So I'll give you an example. There was a terrific spinner. Again, I won't take a name. Gautam just said, Joyda, don't pay him, don't do anything. He's a great player. Bring him to the nets in Calcutta. If he works, use him. He was a brilliant off spinner, but he had a substance abuse issue. Okay. And we didn't work out. He had to go back. So fine. We tried. Gautam also understood that, he was trying his best to rehabilitate that kid. The guy went back. 2 years later, I've left KKR. I'm in the World Cup. I go and watch a match. I'm sitting in the, KKR area in the sense that, where the KKR tickets have been given. And I meet this kid. And I said, hey, what you doing here? He said, yeah, I'm totally rehab. I came back. Gautam has put me into his academy, got me a job. I'm clean now. I'm working with kids now. And there are 100 stories like that with Gautam Gambhir, who you will never hear of outside. He'll never talk about them. He anyway is not the best talker in the world. The funniest thing is when we won the IPL, so we won the IPL 2012, first victory, crazy win. We walk into the room. Gautam sits down with the standard. So one first journalist gets up and says, "Sir, अब आप IPL जीत गए, अब तो थोड़ा हंस लो हमारे लिए." So like Gautam broke this one smile that But yeah, he does so much behind the scenes, so much for people that you've never even heard about. It's not funny. That way he's
one negative thing that I've heard about Gautam is, I think it was the Indian team, the mental conditioning coach, he talked about that Gautam was a player who was never happy. Even if he would hit a century, he would feel bad कि मैं 103 पे आउट क्यों हो गया, मैंने 135 क्यों नहीं मारे. Is that true? Is there any truth to it?
See, it is true. But the point is, understand different people have different ways of dealing with how they play. So people who are also dissatisfied also work. They're always trying to overachieve the next time onward. So they're always looking at their performances as saying, in fact, there's this great saying that every great work of art is never finished, it's abandoned. Because आपको कभी लगता नहीं है कि आप खत्म किए हो. So Gautam is like that. He's always searching for perfection. और थोड़ा अच्छा था. So that's his way of working. The other guys who was like, cool, we win, we lose, we play it calmly. So the whole issue is how easily does the rest of the team as a unit take to the style of that guy. So Gautam for us was, as long as he was sincere, as long as he backed the play. And see, one of the other things players love to know is whether I'm playing or not. And if I'm not playing, why am I not playing? And what needs to happen for me to play. So agar मैं हूँ ना, I'm Bisla, I'm sitting outside, Brendan McCullum is playing. So you're saying that you have to tell Bisla, look, Bissy, अगर Brendan खेल रहा है तो तेरे लिए कोई chance नहीं. Brendan अगर कोई कारण के लिए we can't play him or whatever, तेरे पास chance है. Okay. And he's clear. Then इसके head में he knows कि यार, I have to just keep myself fit and ready because only 4 foreigners allowed. अगर by chance Brendan misses, I mean. Exactly that happened. 2012 final. Brendan can't play because Balaji is injured. Balaji is injured means we need another fast bowler. Bretley has to play. Bretley means an extra foreigner. Brendan can't play. Bisla becomes the batsman in place of Brendan. What happens? Bisla goes and scores 89 or 49 balls and wins the match. Wins the final for KKR. So those are the things. It's about being very clear. And that's why, at least with Gautam, players knew where they stood. What do I need to do to get into the team? What do I need? What am I doing? Because why have I been asked to sit? And what extra performance do I need to get back into the team? He was very clear about these things.
I'm just imagining a cricketer who's not getting a chance to play because of another cricketer just conspiring to get this player to he's like, please have some bhel puri. No, this water is very good for you. As a foreigner, you must try
Sorabh,
this.
You and I think so much alike because my first thing will be like, McCullum को late पहुंचाओ ताकि वो match से ना खिलाए उसको.
But I'll tell you one thing. तुम ऐसे बोल रहे हो, can you imagine how tough it is for the foreign players?
Yeah.
Because each of the foreign players that ever comes to an IPL is a top player in this country. Because you take only 4 foreign players. So they are like top players. Each of them are top players. And as top players of different countries, they have to come to India and they may be sitting out when an Indian player who's not even a national player is playing.
Yeah.
उसे दिख रहा है कि यार इकबाल अब्दुल्ला खेल रहा है लेकिन मैं नहीं खेल सकता हूँ क्योंकि टीम कॉम्पोजिशन में only 4 foreigners. And this may be the only time in his life where a Brendan McCullum or a Bretley has sat out. Otherwise, in their countries, playing for their national teams, they've never had to sit out in their lives. So in many ways, a lot of these guys get very philosophical about it because it's not easy for them to accept, dude, I am Sanghakara, can I be dropped?
Yeah.
Because that's what the format is, only 4 foreigners allowed.
I have a weird proposition which I've always thought about. I think essentially the IPL is probably one of the top 10 sports leagues in the world. And the constant struggle that's been happening with cricket globally is that to expand it to different countries. So don't you think that a proposition, I don't know if this makes any sense, is to have at least one player from an associate team in every, like you have the 4, to have one extra person. Because Sandeep Lamachane playing is a massive this thing. And as you said, Bangladesh is like Shakib Al Hasan and then Mustafizur or whatever playing is like a massive deal. It could apply to other like Ireland yesterday when they beat England again. And there's that one guy, what's his name? Camphor or whatever. Yeah, but Kevin O'Brien though has been around for a while. There's a new kid called Camphor who's like all-rounder who's also been doing well. So don't you think that that's something that they could take seriously or it's not, it's just implausible?
Look, I think they can. I think it's a good idea. It's just that the IPL is not particularly bothered about world cricket spreading. As it happens,
Right.
but T20 cricket has really changed the game. Because one of the things is every T20 international match is an international match.
Yes, now.
Every ODI is not an ODI. If Hong Kong plays if Hong Kong plays Suriname, it's not an ODI match.
Right.
But if Hong Kong plays a T20 against Suriname, it's a registered T20 international match. Okay. T20 has also done that 3 ghanta.
Yeah.
It's an evening out. Aao, khana khao, popcorn khao, game dekho, ghar chale jao. It's a format that works because no game can survive which is more than 3-4 hours. Now it sits in that baseball category. So now how fast T20 is spreading is not funny. The only problem we are having is making pitches is not the easiest thing. It's a specialist thing. But otherwise, T20 cricket is the last 5 years, 6 years, cricket is really spread much more. And I'm telling you, in 10 to 12 years, if they can sort their politics, of course, dirty word again, watch the United States of America. They will be a top T20 team very soon.
Oh, wow.
Just the number of Indians and Pakistanis going there, the amount of money out there, the amount of people they're trying to organize leagues, it will be a top T20 team.
I mean, it'll be
Sorry, with so many T20 teams now, records are also broken every day for the lowest score scored by a T20 team. I think there's 35, then somebody scored 32.
Didn't Japan score 8? Japan scored 8 against someone, right? It was like they got out all out. Yeah, something like that.
But what are your views about now the new 100 which was supposed to take place in UK, which hasn't now? But what are your views about the 100?
It's like making another format. It's interesting, but my point is that you have to standardize somewhere. So they wanted to be, they were like Hindi film producers in the 80s. Yaar, violent love story hoga, lekin hat ke. So I want violent, I want love story, thoda action bhi hoga, thoda love story bhi hoga, lekin thoda hat ke. So 20 is exactly, 100 is exactly like that. Basically, it's what? You're saying there are 100 balls, and I'm going to have certain number of normal overs. Okay, so 18, basically 90, you have 15, 6 and 90. And the last over is a 10 ball over. So it's just, it's a variation on the format. They're trying to do a couple of different things. Does it work? Doesn't it work? It's not that different from T20. There'll be a little bit more tactics involved. But look, I don't mind it. I think over time, they'll have to decide on some formats. Like there was this thing called Max Cricket. If you ever have a chance to look it up, it was started by a chap called Martin Crowe, who was a brilliant cricketer.
Yeah.
And he had stuff like you can score 8 runs if you do some things and, change the scoring. Again, all these are interesting. And there's place for all of that. I mean, keep trying. I think you'll have to standardize. Internationals will have to be standardized to a particular format. Otherwise, try your new stuff. What's the problem?
I had a random thought about Gambhir, if I'm not mistaken. This just struck me right now. I think Gautam Gambhir had a deviated septum and he didn't know it was a problem for the longest time. And then he went to Australia and got it. Is that a story about Gambhir or am I getting it completely wrong?
I have no idea. Quite possible. Quite possible, but not that I know of. Could have happened before my...
It might have been like, I remember reading this, I don't know if it was Gambhir, but it's some Indian cricketer who had a deviated septum, hadn't got it cured, and then went down to Australia, and the Australian surgeons were like, why have you not done anything? You're an international cricketer. And they're like, this is a deviated septum. I don't know if anybody in chat remembers if the story is real or not. Maybe I'm getting the details completely wrong.
Ask them, there'll be sure to be somebody out there who knows.
Yeah. Suraj Gadvi asked, who does bidding for Football World Cup or Olympic work? Do you think in the near future we will be able to bid for any such event? Commonwealth was controversial, but it did a lot for Indian sports. Bidding is like a long thing.
So we were thinking 2032, okay, for an Olympics. I think now it's going to get pushed back. I mean, really, the only thing I tell people is that in the early 1990s, Japan, late 80s, early 90s, Japan for the World Cup, to win the Football World Cup. Do you know how long their plan was for? Their plan was a 100-year plan. They said in the next 100 years, we should win a World Cup. So any sort of, really good plan to do well in cricket or sport or build an Olympic is 20-year plans, 30-year plans. Don't even think below that. The problem with Indian administrators, 20 साल बाद मैं नहीं रहूंगा, फिर फायदा क्या है? So I have to say कि ये 5 साल में जीतने वाले हम लोग, 5 साल में करना है. नहीं होता ऐसा यार. You have to turn around and say कि 20 साल बाद I'm going to see some results of what I'm doing now.
Makes sense. Okay. So I just need 2 comments and then Angad, you can ask your question because people are getting agitated.
Okay, sorry.
Afzal Jivani asks, baby over OP. Angad bhai, please ask my question, but he's not asked any question. Oh, you have a question?
Yeah. So he had actually pinged me on Instagram. So basically, like we saw rising Pune super giant over there for I think 2 years. And there was an article about how in the first year they realized that people in Pune are not loving the team. The reason was they didn't have any Pune representative, and then they got Rahul Tripathi in the team, and he performed well, so it worked for them. So even Afzal was asking, in 2011, the KKR team went through a complete restructure. Dada actually was completely out of the team. So was it there any difficulty to, kind of keep the fans attached with the sort of the KKR brand name and the team?
Yes, there was. There was definitely a huge one. And in fact, in 2012, when Calcutta played, Kolkata Knight Riders played Pune in Eden Gardens. It's the only time I've seen in my life. I think the match was 3rd or 5th May 2012. That half the stadium was blue for Pune, half the stadium was purple for KKR. So I've never seen a IPL stadium 50 and 50 because it never happens. You're playing in one venue or the other.
Yeah.
Okay? And I remember that, the match was first in KKR's favor. Then Angelo Matthews hits Yusuf Pathan for 3 sixes and the match gets close. And then Dada's facing Rajat Bhatia. And Rajat Bhatia's balls, they reach, by the time they need it, they get onto a train and they sort of sit in the train and they slowly come to you, chuck their way. They have 2-3 stations in between. So the ball reached, Sorabh gives it an almighty whack. It goes straight up there. And Iqbal Abdullah was running. And you cannot believe the emotion at that time because there are 80,000 people standing like that and going like that. And which side will it go? And he held on to the catch and KKR won. But the point was, after that, after KKR won that year, it was a sort of, okay, Dada won where KKR won. Now the fight is over. So then the fans came back to KKR in the state. Would they have had KKR not won that year? I don't know. But that was the moment where, it's sort of the fan came back because right at the start of the season, there was definitely a lot of antipathy towards having a team without Dada.
And 2012 was a great year for KKR because Chennai had won the previous 2. 2014, KKR completely dominated the entire league. But 2012 versus 2014, which IPL win for you was more special?
See, the first one's always more special. Right? It is really, really special, the first one. And the crazy thing was that we won all our matches except for the first match that we played away in Jaipur. We lost that. We won every away match, which is the most difficult thing in the IPL. And what happened is small guys did small things, Like Laxmi Ratan Shukla, who's now Minister in Bengal, Deputy Minister of Sport. He did what we call the small things. He'd make 2 diving stops on the field. He'd catch a brilliant catch. He'd bowl 2 very useful overs. He lit 20 runs. Devabrata Das. So what happens is you have 2 superstars, Gautam Gambhir and Sunil Narine. Okay, and you have this entire cast of other people who are doing little things. Yahan thoda, yahan thoda, yahan thoda. And that was the beauty of it. See, when do you feel really good about a team? When the total talent of the team, when the team is better than the total talent of the team is better than its parts. And that was 2012. Most importantly, it was a very happy team. In the sense that we would be singing, we'd be partying, we'd be having a good time. So happy teams, it adds to the sort of momentum of what we do. And you had people like, Wasim Akram and all, who were just so cool, so funny. It's a great experience, And Vaz was especially funny. The worst part of it was we had to stop from bowling in the nets. At that time, I remember one particular occasion, an England batsman was batting the nets, international batsman. And Wasim, I ball did yaar. And so he goes and bowls. So he beats him twice, then Trevor calls him. Trevor, Vaz, come in. What? He said, look, this guy is he's just come back. He's trying to get his confidence back. How is he going to get his confidence when a 43-year-old man who hasn't played the game in 5 years, basically beats him with every ball? What are you doing to my batsman? I mean, you're supposed to be a coach. You're supposed to be on our side. So I said, okay, fine. Take the ball back.
But what was the mood during the 2012 final, the mid-season, in the final between the break? Because Chennai had set up a score of, I think, 190. And KKR doesn't have McCullum with them. This is the first time KKR is in the final. And in a final, chasing a score of 190 automatically becomes 220, 230.
Yeah.
See, I'll tell you what happened. We didn't have any pressure on us because 190 was so big. And Chennai, Ashwin bowling 190, we said we have lost this match. For some reason, Shakib came up to me halfway through in that break and said, Joyda, don't worry, we'll win it. And I'll be there when we score the winning runs. As it was, it turned out true. But the craziest story about it is a very different one. It's about a guy celebrating, not realizing. So here's the problem. It's basically the last ball of the 19th over. Okay, KKR has 16 to get in 7. Last ball. That's very close to this time. Very close. You can't.
I think.
And
So your internet is acting up a little bit.
Huh?
But lag ho raha hai. Your internet is acting up.
You hear me now?
Yeah,
better. I think you will have to take from 16 runs in 7 balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 16 runs in 7 balls. Doug Bollinger is bowling. And he bowls to Shakib, and the ball is high. It's that sort of area between being a no ball or not being a no ball. Shakib hits it on the back foot to mid-off. And there's nobody in mid-off. Mid-on is running. Mid-on is Murli Vijay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So Murli Vijay runs. He catches the ball, and Chennai is one of the noisiest crowds. Just screaming so much, nobody hears anything. He goes off on a victory run. So he's got the ball, he's running. Okay. Our guys have seen the call. What he has not seen is it's a no ball. Okay. So his teammates are screaming, throw the bloody ball back. He's got the ball in his hand. He's celebrating. He can only see the crowd. Okay. And these guys run too. He down, he gives the ball back.
Sorry, your internet is acting up again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your internet is going up and down a lot.
Can you now?
Yeah, we can. This is exactly like the story you're talking about with interruptions. Can you hear us at all?
I think its upload speed is on the lower side.
Oh, technical information. Yeah, we can see your eyes blinking right now, very suspiciously towards us. Now
again, Wi-Fi also.
If you can say something, we'll just try and hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. So Murli Vijay is celebrating. Yeah.
So Murli Vijay is celebrating. His teammates are screaming to him, throw the ball back. When he realizes he throws the ball back, these guys have run 2. There's also a third run because it's a no ball. And the last ball, basically, Shakib steps forward and lap sweeps it over over short midway, backwards.
Fine.
It's a 4. So from 16 and 7, it became 9 in 6 balls. And that totally changed the game. Had even at that point in time, Murli Vijay realized that we were running, we would have probably not got more than 1 run out there. And the entire dynamic would have changed. Tiwari would have been facing, things might have been very different. So strange things happen. When things have to happen, they happen.
Yeah. You, by the way, mentioned one of my a cricketer who I've always been very fascinated by, which is Laxmi Ratan Shukla, because I remember when they won that under-19 World Cup, it was under-19 only, right? And he was captaining.
No, I didn't think he won in under-19, but he's played under-19 and he's played he's played for India also. He was one of the victims of a time when, our physios and all were rubbish. Because we didn't know enough about medicine. He was 140 plus in those days, late 90s.
Yeah.
Just injured, nobody gave him enough attention. And then he just became a batsman. But Laxmi was one of those talents who should have played a lot for India. Just one of those things.
Oh, I'm also getting him confused with Ritendra Singh Sodhi because of the 3-name thing. Yeah. Ritendra Singh Sodhi.
Sodhi was the under-15 captain.
Yeah.
And he was part of the Yuvraj CAF under-19 team.
Yeah. Part of the Yuvraj CAF under-19.
So I have a weird this thing about the money balling of cricketers. Okay, one of my favorite cricket stats, and I've not been able to find the stat yet, is about comparing 2 cricketers one of whom is constantly made fun of and one of whom is now celebrated as this all-rounder who wins matches for India, Hardik Pandya and Stuart Binney. I went through the stats till 2019 when Hardik had that crazy year where he did all that stuff. And till that point, Stuart Binney's stats compare very favorably with Hardik Pandya. Like they were actually like pretty close. I think their bowling average and their batting average and even the strike rate and economy rate was pretty close. So who are these, like, as you mentioned Laxmi Ratan Shukla and even somebody like Rajat Bhatia, for example, who will still land up doing those, like at a minimum 3 overs and get 21 runs or whatever it is. Who are the other players who across the league where you're like, you know what, these people are not, they don't get the credit they are due.
So there was a bowler for Rajasthan Royals right in the beginning called Siddharth Trivedi. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Another irritating bowler, you know. See, the point is these guys, and you know them when you play against them. Okay. Now he's celebrated, but Praveen Tambe is another great case of somebody who did, you know, a hell of a lot. Probably the most celebrated, and I think one of the finest cricketers I've ever seen was Badrinath. Badrinath was literally, he has batted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for Chennai. Wherever Dhoni's needed him, he shoved him in. And Badri's performed. He's just an amazing, amazing guy. And he'd come in these 34 for 3 situations. Or he'd come in at 125 for 4 where they had 40 to win. He has done everything. And for what he's done, Badri has not got a tenth of the recognition he should have.
So Badrinath played 1 T20 for India. He scored 43 runs against West Indies. He was man of the match. But he played only 1 T20 for India.
That's it. I mean, there's some players who are just cursed. There's this player called Bhaskar Pillai, who's a great player for Delhi. Okay. And I think he was selected for one match and that one match got rained out. And another time he was not selected because the players, the selectors were looking at the stats of Bhaskar Pillai. But that year, the scorers has put his stats under KP Bhaskar. So half his numbers was KP Bhaskar, the half his numbers were Bhaskar Pillai. So you cannot believe the kind of things. Agar nahi hota na, I'll tell, and that's what I'm telling you. Why are, if you see cricketers and film actors and directors, anyone in the film industry is superstitious? Because these are
Is this
Frozen
internet
again.
stuck, right?
Yeah. You know what the weirdest thing is, which is worth mentioning? You know who I was trying to get today?
Who?
Badrinath Subramanian.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I literally messaged him yesterday saying that.
Sorry.
Hello,
Joy sir is back. Joy sir is back.
Yeah. I was just telling Angad about how another person I was coordinating with to try and get on this day was Badrinath. I literally messaged him a day before yesterday saying, hey, I have Joy Bhattacharya. Would you like to come? Would love to have you. Because I met, I happened to meet him at some event. I'm like, hey, Badrinath. He's like, yes, relax. I'm like, then we had a drink together. And very interesting man also.
Oh,
and completely, yeah.
He and Balaji are some of my favorite Indian cricketers. Amazing guys. The most warm-hearted, good guys you'll ever meet.
You were talking about Bhaskar Pillai and then you moved on to somebody else.
Pillai, half his stats were under KP Bhaskar. They didn't see him because they were looking for stats for Bhaskar Pillai. And he was KP Bhaskar. So things like this have happened in Indian cricket where they've got the wrong guy because they've seen the wrong stat. Okay. And, all these, that's why I'm saying film actors, anyone in the film industry, anyone in cricket is like, they are always superstitious because you can do everything right, but there are things that you can't control. Manoj Tiwari, sensation for India, plays very well. He's going to get selected. Where is he going to select? Bangladesh. He's going for a tour of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is where you pile runs because whatever, in those days, 2002, 3, 4, Bangladesh is where you scored runs. He gets himself injured. Doesn't go. Where does he get his debut? In bloody Australia, the first bowler he's facing is Brett Lee. Brett Lee in Australia is your first thing. Gets out for a duck, doesn't get chances again. And throughout, whenever he sort of is coming close to getting a chance again, getting a good place, something happens. It's luck is such a huge part, and it's similarly in the film world. There are films which are beautifully made, just don't click. I mean, Andaz Apna Apna is a flop. I mean, Can you believe it? It was a flop. So people in these two industries they're superstitious and with good reason because they know that without luck, you can do everything in the world. You need that huge dose of luck to take you over.
I think taking the example of Bhaskar Pillai, players will now change their name to Virat Kohli. So the selectors confused ki kaun sa Virat.
Do you know that Mohammad Shami was for 2 years, 3 years at the start?
Mohammad Shami Ahmed.
No, he was known as Shami Ahmed by Bengal.
Okay.
Okay. And never, he says, boss, my name, I don't know Ahmed in my name. So we went and finally took it up and said, how can you get a player's name wrong? Yeah? It's like Virat Kohli playing and saying, nahi yaar, tujhe Bunty Kohli bulayenge. It doesn't work, dude. So that's exactly what's the kind of thing that happens with us here. But till you make it big, officials are your bosses. They do whatever you want.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it's so weird to me about how generally in Indian sport, right? So many stories that you hear of somebody who wanted to be a sports person or a cricketer. And then they just gave up. They're like, I can't deal with this stuff. It's too much. Like people who won international matches and basically being state champions and all the rest of that stuff. They're like, we're done. We can't go beyond this.
To every cricketer you ask, he will tell you there are at least 3 people he's played with who are more talented than him, who gave up the game for injury or reasons like this. Each and every one of them will tell you that there were guys more talented.
There's a question that's coming from Soumya Mehta basis what's been happening in England right now, which is a good, interesting question. Do you think India will have to play 2 teams the way England currently is in the post-pandemic era? If yes, how challenging will segmenting the players according to limited overs and red ball be?
I think, look, today India's got a reasonably large base. We've got about 5 players, 6 players who do both. And then the rest of them are more specialists in that sense. I think we can put up 2 teams. Remember, even England putting up 2 teams, they're not the greatest of teams. And right now, remember that Ireland, they rested quite a few of their regulars and they didn't put their best against Ireland. So we can put up 2 teams now. It's not impossible, but I think scheduling also is a matter of how much India, wants to play. And I think India doesn't, unless these are pandemic situations, very difficult to decide. India wouldn't want to play so much where you're playing one team one day and the other. In fact, India has done it once. In 1998, we played both the Commonwealth Games, which they had a tournament, and the Sahara Cup at the same time. 2 different teams went. And I think Sachin and all, they lost in the Commonwealth Games and they flew down to play the finals of the Sahara Cup as well. So yeah, that is the one time in history in 98 we've actually played 2 teams at the same time. And 2 limited over, 50 over games at the same time.
I remember there was this one match between New Zealand and Zimbabwe in 1992, in which they were playing a test match, but they scheduled an ODI in between the test match. So the first day was a test match, second day was an ODI, then the third day the test match continued. So they played back-to-back 6 days of cricket.
Wow. No, they used to have rest days in those times, but yeah, I've never heard. I don't remember a ODI being involved. It's amazing.
Yeah, an ODI was sandwiched in a test. I don't know why it happened, but it happened.
Wait, which year was this?
1992.
Do you know that the first actual ODI, the concept came from Donald Bradman, because at that time he was Australian Cricket Board, and they had a rained out test match, and he said, let's have a limited over match to make it. So Bradman was the guy who actually started it here.
It's so weird that every time I remember the story about the ODI, and I'm like, you know what? I think they should do this in test matches now, where if it's rained out like constantly, and then they're like, yaar, 3 din ke liye barish hone wali hai, let's just play 1 innings each. Like, there's got to be. Yeah.
It used to be very common. At one time, Australia, you traveled in Australia, and Ravi Shastri will tell you the story, that we were playing Western Australia, and the match finished very early. And the Western Australia guys came and said that, you know what, the match is finished early. Can we actually have a 15 over a match between the teams so that the spectators are not bored? Yeah. And teams would actually do it as well. They'd go out and say, yaar, spectator log paise dekar aaye, yaar, chalo, khel lete hain.
But this, by the way, happened between England and South Africa, I think some 10 years back, in which the first 3 days there were rain. So the teams decided that South Africa will set them a target of 250 odd. And they declared 1-1 innings. And then, but England chased it. So I think after that, people will be like, "Arey yaar, target set karke haar gaye."
It was a great idea. I think it was a great idea because it brought meaning back into a match which had no meaning. And both captains had decided here. But yeah, it was a fantastic idea. I think you need to do it because at the end of the day, boss, this is not you're entertaining people. Don't forget that. Your job is, you're not a brain surgeon. You're not a farmer. You're not a rocket scientist. Your job is, people are there to come and watch games and be entertained. There's no point playing the dull draw.
Akhil Shetty says a lot of our current test bowlers come from the IPL. Bumrah, Ashwin, Pandya, Bhuvi. Joy sir's views on that. I think yeah.
Look, I think the scouting system during the IPL has been amazing. I mean, you know who scouts for somebody like the Mumbai Indians?
John Wright.
Kiran More and John Wright. So Kiran More goes and has a look, then John Wright goes and has a look. And therefore, they have this pipe and they can afford to do it. And they don't care which state you are, whether you're friends with the current selector, current state, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. वो जाकर आराम से देखते अच्छा लगता है तो उठा कर लिया. And that has been fantastic for Indian cricket. Umesh Yadav.
Yeah.
Umesh Yadav again picked up by in those days, the Indian bowling coach, Eric Simmons. Eric Simmons saw him somewhere and he said, that guy's got potential. And he picked him up for Delhi Daredevils and then India happened. But that's what it is. When you have that freedom, all you're told by an IPL owner is find the best players. So there is no ego involved कि यार इसको pick करेंगे, इसका भाई को उठाए, इसे नहीं उठाए. No such thing. You just pick good players, you'll be rewarded. That's how it works.
Umesh Yadav is like, every time I see him bowling, I'm just like, this guy, like he's just like something away from greatness. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just one little thing that I think once it clicks, it's probably going to be crazy.
When Umesh is up, when his tail is up, he's one of the finest bowlers I've seen. He's got everything. And he's a tough kid. Again, he's from that Nagpur mining area. Tough guy he is, man. The body he has, those are natural. I mean, वो आप gym से नहीं होता है. That's a very natural thing he's got.
Yeah. But Umesh Yadav has a great home record because Bumrah is generally not playing at home, our test cricket. And Umesh is the only one who has like great average and strike rate when it comes to home, basically matches in India.
I think Umesh is a prospect, and Umesh, see, it's working also because they have 4-5 good bowlers. So that, in the top 3, Shami, Bumrah, Umesh, Bhuvi, Ishant, all of them are there. Easily, nostalgia, the RWA old uncles like me will say, yaar, hamare time mein tha. Ravish, this is the best fast bowling attack India's ever had.
Yeah.
And if you look at total history, it's actually the best bowling attack we've had. Because Ashwin and Jadeja, for a moment, strip the fact that they bowl in front of you. Look at their numbers. And their numbers compare well with anyone in the history of Indian cricket.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to just get rid of this sentimentality and say, boss, this is some of the players you're seeing now playing in front of you are all-time greats of India.
And also, it's literally related to what you said. It's about the 10-year system. It's not about the overnight this shit happened. It happened because there was a system in place. And then there were proper coaches, there were proper physios, there was all the rest of that stuff.
Absolutely. And India has done it well. The IPL has helped because IPL, where it's really helped is one is the selection of outliers that we call. The other is physios trainers. Now, all the guys, when they come now, their IPL trainers become their normal trainers and they take their lessons back. And even the state guys, they sort of intern with IPL teams and all the entire level of fitness and physio has gone up like that.
Yeah. Angad, you were saying something.
I have a weird statement to make, and I want opinion of both of you on it. So I feel like now, kids who belong to upper middle class family or above that, they can't end up becoming cricketers because they might have the privilege and the facilities and the money and everything, but धूप में नहीं खेलेगा वो. उसके पास घर में PlayStation है खेलने के लिए. But kids that belong to sort of the the middle class or the lower class, they would go out and play and they end up becoming cricketers. You look at every cricketer right now, their story. They don't come from rich families.
See, I completely agree. The odds are overwhelmingly against it. Two things. One is that you have options. And if you have options, you're going to take the easier options. It's natural. And you just don't have that much hunger. I mean, I'll give you a similar example in football. My son is a pretty decent player, played for Haryana juniors and all. One day he was in class 10, he's turned around and said, boss, dad, I want to become a footballer. So I said, Aaja mere saath, tu football khelna chahta hai, come. And I took him to one of the, there are all these posh Barcelona academies and all. I took him to Baichung Bhotia Academy. Why? Because I know the guys there and they are hardcore footballers. And he went and played with them. Okay, and there are guys who have come down from the northeast only to play football. because that playing football is giving them their scholarship and their 2 square meals and their education. And I said, they practice twice a day from 6 to 9 in the morning and then again in the evening from 3 to 6 in the evening. I said, are you prepared to do this? Are you prepared to practice, give that much 6 hours a day practice with them? Are you prepared to play and be as fit as them? If you're not, he said, no. And that's what it is. The fact of it is that it's very difficult for people because you will just not have the hunger they have. You will just not have the desperation to get out. See, even in football, Pele, Ronaldinho, these guys come from the slums. Football was their way out to so many people in middle class India, suburban India, small town India. Cricket is their ticket to a big life, a good life. So the hunger with which they go after it is very difficult. And I agree with you, you will rarely see it now. Also, because selections have become much more transparent thanks to the IPL and all that, you're not going to get selections only where iska beta is select. That's not happening.
Because you have the prime example of the under-19 player, right? Yashasvi Jaiswal, I think. He was Golgappa seller, I think, in Mumbai. But he has been picked up in IPL, so it will be really exciting to see him perform.
Yeah, he's a talent. He's a genuine talent. I mean, I think Prithvi, Shubman, and Yashasvi, these are the 3 you should be seeing for the next 10 years. Definitely.
Sorabh, do you have questions or should I keep going on?
No, I actually had an observation, which is like a few days back I interviewed, I had the opportunity to talk to Kidambi Shrikant, HNS Pranoy, Deepa Karmakar, and 3 para-athletes, which is Pramod, I've completely forgotten his name. And all, like 6 of them were about roughly the same thing, which is that it's not only cricket, it's that sport. And which is why, like, I don't think people give enough onus in India to what sport represents to so many people, which is that you literally uplift not only yourself, but that village or wherever you're coming from, because you're coming and you're infusing, I mean, purely from an economic sense, you're still infusing money into that area and you're trying to get more people in. So I think people tend to disregard the importance of sport in uplifting human beings.
So there is a village called Shahabad Markanda. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
It's a village in Haryana. Okay. 7 of the current Indian women's hockey team come from there.
Right.
Thanks to one girl, Rani Rampal, who was from such a background that she didn't have a watch to make it on time. So she didn't have a watch because her coach told her 6 baje practice mein aana. वो कभी 5:30 बजे आ जाती थी because she said मेरे घर में घड़ी नहीं था यार, मैं देखकर क्या देखकर आऊं, तो मैं सुबह हो जाता था, मैं पहुंच जाती थी. So that's the kind of thing that happens. Shahbaz Markanda has changed because of Rani Rampal. Okay, Northeast, so many parts of Northeast have changed because of Baichung Bhutia coming in. You have literally the village of Tinky Tam, all those areas around it have become football villages, and that's the truth. Even now, there's a level below which we never look at. All the volleyball players, basketball players, one of the reasons they used to do it was railways mein naukri mil jayega, port trust mein naukri mil jayega, isme naukri mil jayega. They used to play to get steady jobs. And that's what used to drive all these people. The only problem is once you get that job, that incentive is there no more. That dies away. So that's why the system is sort of flawed in that sense. But sport has been an uplifter for people for the longest time.
Yeah. Okay, there's just one question that I got to ask you. First, thanks to Rishika Mitra, who said really insightful podcast. Nothing to do with us. We just have Joy here. We are just sitting. We are just sitting, drinking coffee and asking questions. Rishika Mitra said that Akhil Pisharodi says KKR has been my favorite team since 2008. 12 years. Commitment, dekho bande ki. 12 saal commitment. That's amazing. Okay, somebody has a question, which is, I think you've pretty much answered this about the PT, what is it? PTP.
Point to prove.
Yeah. Vamsi Krishnas, how do you think a team like CSK is going to rebuild given that the core team has only about 2-3 years left in their career? I don't think that's fair. Is that fair, you think? Or no?
Yeah, see, the reason why he's asking is that they have 8-9 of their players in that bottom of their careers. So what happens is, who do you retain? So the question is, every IPL team, there's a retention 5 players. So the simple thing is, who does CSK retain in 2021? Once 3 years are over and you go to an auction, who do they retain? So 21 is the last year where these current players will stay. So next year onwards, will Dhoni come back? Who else will come back? Harbhajan may be too old. Watson may be too old. Piyush Chawla may be too old. So all the guys that you have who are the core of your team, Faf du Plessis may be too old. You may want to retain nobody. So you may have to make a fresh new start. So that's what they're asking about. See, the fact is, that's how the way CSK is playing it is one last, this is literally this and 21 April. In 6 months, there'll be another IPL if everything goes well. This is literally CSK ka last dance.
Right.
With these players, this team, this lineup, in 6 months, they'll try and win 2 IPLs. Let's see how well they do. They're going to give it a very serious shot. And then this team will completely disband and they'll start from scratch.
Okay, somebody has a question which I thought was quite interesting. By the way, thanks to Tandon Obero, thanks to Shubhankar Verma, really appreciate it. Shubhankar Verma has your favorite non-Indian batsman right now.
Right now.
Let's take can I tell you my favorite cricketer in the world right now? I mean, it's hard to look past Ben Stokes here. Just generally, over the last year and a half, it's pretty ridiculous what he's done.
No, Ben Stokes is a serious cricketer. See, there are so many really good cricketers. I mean, but you like cricketers for something else. You like cricketers. There's a way a particular guy puts his hand down and plays, which you find very stylish. Like for me, I used to find Mahela Jayawardene very stylish. I used to find Mark Waugh very stylish. Azhar in the beginning. Azhar, when he started batting, and if you ever watched him in the Eden Gardens batting in those days, bat would come down from third man. Any coach seeing it would have nightmares for the rest of his life. And when it hit the ball, till the point it contacted, you didn't know whether it was going to mid-on or whether it was going to deep square leg. His wrist was so beautiful. Lakshman is a bit of that, So my current batsman who I actually like watching is a player called Shai Holmes. And it's one of those things. Why do I like watching? Hota na keeda hota hai sir mein. You just like something of that guy's, the way he plays. I like Shai Holmes. I like watching him. And I just love watching Jimmy Anderson bowl. He just has that, he's not too fast. He's not too good. He doesn't swing too much. Just does enough to get what he needs to do here.
Angad, who's your favorite right now? Who's your favorite? It can be Indian also. I don't think there's any rule that it has to be non.
So in India, I'm really betting upon Rishabh Pant. I love him.
Rishabh Pant.
I will when people have this ki Pant ko nikalo team se Sanju Samson ko dalo, and I will fight for Pant. I will fight for Pant like how people fight for Dhoni and Kohli. Internationally, I really enjoy watching Nicholas Pooran. I think he's a very attacking player.
Can hit it hard. As they say, he hits a long ball. If he hits it, it stays it.
So I really love watching him bat. But again, both the players are they're very temperamental. The time you will need them to bat slowly, they will never do that.
This is a question. So no, go ahead. Sorry.
Go.
So this is a question which is I know that when you were the head of production, for Star Sports, you started this thing called Super Selector, which really I used to play Super Selector very religiously. I was one of the 50,000 people or whatever that played it. And this relates to the question, which is that should cricket betting be legalized in India by Harshdeep Sethi? It's a very interesting question.
I think it should be legalized. The truth is there's so much money sloshing around. Betting in sport should be legalized in India. What is stopping us is this political correctness. But the fact of it is there's crores and crores being bet. Crores and crores are bet in, in Chandni Chowk in Delhi, there's something called a Pani Patra. Okay, Pani Patra is bets on kaun sa din barish hoga, kitne baje barish hoga. So there's hundreds of crores of betting on just when it will rain. So people will bet on anything. Money is going to go somewhere. So you might as well legally bring it in. Use that money to then sponsor sport, put sport. So when I was in working the World Cup, there was a secretary of sports secretary in the government of India, very efficient guy, completely abnormally, chap called Injati Srinivas, very good man. And he actually went to England, looked up all this, because betting is legal in England, saw the options, and he said that, boss, he put together and tabled a report saying that it's something we should do and use this money, whatever money that comes in on the taxes on betting, to really help sport. It was just lack of political will. People say, "Arey yaar, betting karwa rahe ho." Look, this thing game is not very far from betting. Putting your money on, say, a fantasy league is not very different from betting. You will say game of skill, game of not skill. Even betting can be a game of skill to a certain extent. So it all depends on where you look at it. If that money is going to be used anyway, why are we not using it for Indian sport? Why is it going into the black market? That's what I'm asking.
And also, if we make betting legal, then we can have strict laws against match fixing. Right now, the players who are like charged in it are charged for money laundering and not for match fixing, since betting is illegal.
Absolutely, I agree with you. In fact, there's a lot of work which has gone into it, that what you can do with match fixing and the problems with it, the kind of legislation you can do. It's all there. It needs just political will to say, and it should be across parties. Yeah, Ki legalize it. 3,000, 4,000 crores into Indian sport, it can change Indian sport.
Yeah, and also it's weird where
Sorabh, do you play fantasy league and all?
Dude, I am we were trying to do this last year, and then both of us just gave up because we had too many shows happening. Now this time we have nothing else really happening, so I think we can happily bet nicely. I
start playing it, and I realized like I would bet 13 rupees, and then I would, if I have not picked Rohit Sharma in my team and he's performing, I started hoping that he would get out. For 13 rupees, मेरी देशभक्ति बिक गई.
Yeah, but that's my only this thing with, like, I enjoy the betting, but I like to do it on and off, not every time, because then you start losing you start losing the joy a little bit. I mean, it starts.
One of the things it does, and one of the things that we started it in ESPN Star Sport, was making people interested in non-India matches.
Yeah.
So if England is playing Zimbabwe, it didn't matter. But Matthew Hoggard, mera bowler hai yaar, 4 wicket later. You got to watch that game. Because that was the idea. We thought people will watch India matches anyway. But the interest in non-India players and matches increases dramatically if you have fantasy league.
I think this is the year. I think this IPL, I'm going to do all of them. I'm going to do all Dream 11. All of them is.
I've already started. I've created my league. I played with my fans. It's 0 rupees, obviously. I lose every time.
Yeah.
But I've already started doing that.
Fabulous.
But this relates to a question which somebody asked randomly, and I think it's an interesting question about Sreesanth. Now Sreesanth is 37 years old, and he's a fast bowler, and he's making a comeback now. It's pretty tough to I mean, all due credit to like, he used to be a very good fast bowler when he was at his peak. What do you think about his comeback?
I think it's tough. I wish him the best of luck if he wants to make a comeback, because at 37 making a comeback. See, the other thing is that no matter how much you bowl in the nets, there's something called match fitness. Match fitness is alertness when you play. It's a very different thing from just fitness. Yeah. And it's very different. Plus, remember, Kerala is not a bad attack nowadays. Kerala has Basil Thampi, Kerala has Sandeep Poirier. Both these guys are very, very decent fast bowlers. Basil Thampi plays for Sandeep Poirier, has been picked up by KKR. Basil Thampi plays for Sunrisers Hyderabad. These are good bowlers. So it's not as if he'll get a walk-in into the team. The only thing is that now, with a lot of the Northeast teams and all the states have teams. There are many more teams you can go to. So maybe he'll pick up another team. But it's not going to be easy at all.
That's interesting. Because what's his name? Sachin Baby said that he's looking good in the nets, and then he's like, but he's not ready yet. So, it's an interesting story. Like I mean, can you imagine I'm just imagining the dramatic potential of Sreesanth randomly making it to the team, and then randomly being called to the Indian team for like even a match. Like, that would be such a great, like, just to finance his biopic. That would be
but Akshay Kumar has already taken the rights. So you should be aware of it.
Oh, has he?
He must have.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, it would be very remiss of him not to take
it. He's got the rights.
Disappointed.
You think anytime anyone's born in India, they just like sign into the BMC certificate, under it says the rights for your biopic eventually will go to Akshay Kumar, no matter what your story is. Akash Agarwal has asked a question, which is how much do you think the physio and support system will change with the COVID restrictions in the IPL, with less number of people allowed to travel?
No, I think your physio is the one person, the physio and trainer, two people you will not give up. Most people nowadays carry more than one physio. The big thing which Indian cricketers get, and now foreign cricketers are also getting used to, which is very important, which before we used to get from outside, is masseurs. See,
Right.
physically, we have a hell of a lot of body ache. And because there are lots of short games, dehydration, body ache is a huge issue. So masseurs were absolutely essential. So normally we used to arrange with them in cities, and we carried one masseur with us, but we'd get others on demand. Those things are not going to happen now. So I think, in fact, it's the reverse. They'll try and get more people in their squads who can try and help them do these things, because you see, you have no access to outside help at all, and that's going to be an impact.
Suresh Raina recently said that he's one thing that is good about the IPL happening in Dubai is that उतनी ज़्यादा flights नहीं लेनी पड़ेंगी, because now the stadiums are like 45 minutes apart.
We've done Dubai in 2014.
Yeah.
And everything is a drive away. It's maybe a 1.5 hour drive, like Abu Dhabi is a 1.5 hour drive. But it's at least a drive away. And, flights take the mickey out of a player.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how tough it is to play, practice, flight, play, practice. It's a killer schedule.
Listen, we are stand-up comedians whose job is like 1 hour. When we travel from like Mumbai to Delhi on 1.5 hours, we're like, yaar, itne thak gaye, yaar, kaise karenge 1 ghanta? So I can imagine people who do actual work.
Yeah, I have seen like Harsha Bhogle on my flight, and then he's going at 4 p.m. We are on a flight together at 11 a.m. Then I am sleeping in my hotel room. He has started doing the pre-match session, then he's doing commentary at 4. I'm like, he's older than me, but he has more energy than me.
Yeah.
Harsha Bhogle, it should have been the ad for the Energizer Bunny. I don't know how he does it, and he brings that enthu also. He's like charged up also, which is like, I'm like, Harsha, it's okay. He's like, okay, I'm ready. He's amazing.
But I have to say that about you also. All the Cricbuzz videos of yours that are there, when you talk about cricket, you have that childlike delight about it. And sorry for the bad word, but joy about it.
As I said, I take classes, occasionally the guest lecturer at Micah, and I am Calcutta. And I just said, that's what I said. Basically, how my lecture is titled, How to Get Paid to Watch Cricket. Oh. And that's basically, if you can crack that, you've cracked everything. So why should I not be happy? If you go and see Harsha Bhogle's Twitter bio, it just says one word, blessed. And that's why Harsha is so cool, because he knows exactly how lucky he is as well to be in the position he is. And that's exactly the fact. I mean, to get paid to talk about cricket, I mean, dude, what are you talking? Where are we, man? It's an amazing life you can have.
Okay, I wanted to ask you one question. So there are a lot of players who don't have the BCCI on the BCCI central contract list, but they want to play international leagues. However, they are not given that permission. So what are the hurdles over there? What are your viewpoints?
So it's a very simple thing. I mean, I had a chat with the former BCCI general manager, and they said very simply, and it's a very interesting concept. They said, we don't want to allow people to go outside because that will take away what is special about the IPL, which is that all these Indian players are there. So they have said that you can go out and play only if you retire. So in fact, Praveen Tambe has retired. That's why he's going and playing. Yuvraj Singh retired before going and playing in the current Canadian Premier League, because till he retired, he could not play there. But the question you can ask very certainly is that in that case, why are we stopping players from going and playing in the 100 or whatever? And the truth of it is BCCI has a monopoly product right now. They'd like to keep it that way. And they started off, they made it big. It's mera bat hai, mera ball hai.
Gully cricket rule applies.
Joy, I know you have to go. So are you in a rush, or are we okay with like any more stuff?
I'm okay with 5 more minutes, sir.
Done. Awesome. I mean, we'll take as much time as you have. We are absolutely jobless comedians during the lockdown. This is all we do. Literally, I don't know if you're following the comedy circuit at all right now. Everybody's just doing this. Angad is trying to be a quiz master, which he actually invented a good quiz format. We are all just going on each other's YouTube lives on a like daily basis twice. This is all we're doing.
Angad, I've got to check out your quiz format.
It's not a unique format. I just tape out somebody else's format and just did it first. That's it.
Dude, you who's there first with the most tests, as they say.
Sorry, somebody. We already took this. Sandeep Hiremat says, This is an interesting question. Is a capitalist corporate model like IPL the only way to bring in transparency in sports in India, or is there a better model? Overall sports.
Look, it is a capitalist corporate model in one way, another way it isn't. In the sense that all these, whatever it is, the IPL makes a shitload of money, it makes a lot of things, but because the IPL is there, you have money in under 13, under 15, under 17, under 19 cricket, in state cricket, in Ranji Trophy cricket, in college cricket. All this money basically is coming from IPL. So if you look at it, in many ways, it's a welfare model as well. Because in a pure capitalist model, he'd just take the money for the main product and say, screw you. Today, whatever it is, the BCI is taking this money. It's giving money to state associations. Now, you may ask, are they using it well? Are they using it badly? They're building stadiums. You may ask, should they be building so many stadiums? But at least they are building stadiums. Money that is there is coming plowed back into India.
Yeah.
So I would not say it's a completely capitalist model. It has a certain welfare objective to it. See, the other problem is people tend to forget in India, sport is a state subject. So every state can decide how they want to do it. It's not a central subject. So, for example, a state like Kerala does state sport well. A state like Odisha does it amazingly well. A state like Haryana does it very well. But there are states like UP, which are huge, who are just not, I mean, the kind of number of people they are in UP, they're simply not producing the number of champions they should. And that's the fact of the matter. It's very, 30 different states have 30 different models. So you can't even say that there's one common model. So I don't mind the BCCI model, and I think the BCCI, for all its problems, is giving a hell of a lot back to Indian cricket.
Yeah. I had another question about the IPL is happening, of course, in UAE now. What are your predictions? Let's get predictive, because that's what all the two things that cricket fans love is statistics and predictions. Who do you think? I mean, the UAE, this lower bounce, it sort of. I mean, who do you think is? Yeah, the stadiums, and I don't know. Every time I watch a match in the UAE, like even when Pakistan was playing test matches there, I was like, this, I don't know, is something off? Is this like,
I think that's your Sharjah hangover.
yeah.
That's basically it, yeah.
You've lost so many times in Sharjah that you sort of don't want to really even remember that. For many fans, it's that black hole. You don't want to remember playing in Sharjah. Javed Miandad hitting sixers, Wasim Akram taking hat tricks, you don't want to remember. But no, seriously, UAE means two things. UAE means, if you remember Glenn Maxwell had an absolute blinder.
Yeah.
In 6 matches, he got some 5 matches, he got some 4 man of the match awards and scored some 500 odd runs in UAE itself. It suits players of that kind, because the pitches are going to be. See, there are only 3 pitches you need to adjust to. Normally, if you're playing the IPL, you play 8 different pitches at least.
Yeah.
Your own pitch and 7 different pitches. Okay. Here you're going to play, basically you're going to play 3 pitches, out of which you're going to play 60-70% of your games on 1 pitch, depending on the schedule. So it makes it easier. I think the UAE will be an interesting one. I think it suits Chennai. Low, slow surfaces, Piyush, Harbhajan, bowlers taking the pace off the ball. They'll do well here. And they are going very early. They're going, I think on August 10th, they're leaving. So they're going to go there early and practice as much as possible. So I think Chennai is going to be a dangerous team out there. Of course, which year isn't Chennai's dangerous team is a question that is worth asking. I actually, for the kind of tournament we have in the UAE, I actually don't mind Kings 11. I think they have a decent team for the kind of services that they play. And people like Yale and all can also give you that.
Who's the cricketer? Like, again, we discussed this. The cricketer who's the underappreciated cricketer. Who do you think it's going to be this year? The surprise sort of package. I'm not saying like the explosive ones who we always expect to do well. Who are the ones where you're like, you know what? Once you see this at the end of the entire tournament, you're going to be like, you might be surprised by this one person doing well.
Look, the guys I think firstly haven't had a chance. Like, for example, there's an easy one. Like, there's a Chennai bowler called Lungi Ngidi.
Yeah.
Ngidi just hasn't had enough success for the quality of bowler he is. So I'm betting him because I know at some point he'll jump it. You know what I mean? I think at some point in time, somebody like this thing will have I think Manish Pandey. He's just not had the kind of seasons he needs to. Manish is very much a sort of, he depends on the start he gets. I think if he gets a good start this year, you could see a hell of a lot of runs from Manish Pandey. And I think Shubman Gill is primed to do something this year.
Only if they can figure out where to play him, because it's always coming down the order, whereas he has played majorly as a top order batsman.
I think Shubman has to play 1-2-3 for KKR.
Yeah.
If you're batting him anything below 1-2-3, you're wasting.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take one last question and then I think we'll say goodbye to you because you've been very, very kind with your time. And by the way, this has been an absolute pleasure for both of us because this is, I mean, the Cricbuzz stuff though we've been following for a while. And then after the GK one, I started following everything else. And I'm like, information. And by the way, please follow Joy on Twitter. It's genuinely really, really interesting. And it's fascinating every morning to be greeted by a photograph of some new thing that you didn't know about. So yeah. Okay, I'll give you options for 3 questions, and you can choose whichever one you think is one that you want to talk about. I'll just give you 3 options. One is Chaitanya Gowde, who says views on career in sports analytics. Then Akash Agarwal says, do you think the IPL without the crowds will see us having unexpected or young players perform much better because of this? Which is kind of an interesting question. And somebody says, Abhishek Chandra says, most admirable part of 5 Indian captains, Ganguly, Dravid, Dhoni, Kumble and Kohli. Whichever question you choose.
Okay, I'm going to take the last one because it's easiest to go to fastest route. I'm a lazy man. I'm a Bengali dude. Okay, name the guys again, captains again.
It's the Ganguly, Dravid, Dhoni, Kumble and Kohli.
So Ganguly, definitely the biggest quality about him was he didn't look at state. So till then, all selections of West Zone, East Zone, iska candidate, uska candidate, he didn't give a damn. If Zahir Khan was good, he didn't care if it was East, West, North, South. So he picked Zahir from the, from the West, completely from the West. He's picked Dhoni from the East. He's picked this one from the North. And he picked Dhoni at a time when his Bengal keeper, Deep Das Gupta, was still in contention. Yeah. So one of the things what Ganguly brought to the Indian team was that, and he brought a certain amount of what I call swagger. Otherwise we were very polite. Sir, Ajaye, namaste, sir. I'm tossing with you. I'm so grateful. Even if I lose the toss. And he would say, screw it, yaar. You have come here. My country is as big as yours. So I don't really care. So he brought that combativeness, which I think India needed at that point in time. Who's the next?
Dravid.
Dravid was again, Dravid is very much like Gautam. He is ultimately sincere. As a teammate, he'll never let you down. He'll always keep you informed. He will always tell you what you needed to do. And whatever support. As a captain, you went to him and you said, whatever you need, he'll give you.
Then there's Dhoni.
Dhoni's boss. Nobody can talk about Dhoni's captaincy because nobody knows what it is. And then once we discover what it is it that makes him such a genius, we'll talk about it. But Dhoni is by far and away the best captain I've ever seen on a cricket field in limited overs game. He's not a great test captain. It's not his format. But in a T20 format or even in a 50-over format, he is a genius. And he's so far ahead of everybody else. It's not funny. I genuinely believe that.
So Dhoni's captaincy is a lot like dark matter. We know it's there, but we don't know exactly why it's this thing. Kumble.
How it happens exactly, you never know.
Yeah. Kumble.
Kumble is he's just a tough bastard. Kumble is what I call the Alan Border school of captaincy. This famous Dean Jones story where Dean Jones is batting in the tight test, and that was the day he's had to take saline in between. He was so badly off. He had this thing, food poisoning. He's puking on the side of the pitch, and he gets a century, and he thinks he's got Australia to sort of safety, and then he goes up to Border the other end and says that, Alan, I'm not feeling too good. So he says, get out of here with many more words, saying, and send a proper Queenslander out here. Get out. I don't even want to see your face. And Dean Jones got so scared, he just went and stood at the other end and went and got a double century after that. But Kumble belongs to that form of captaincy. Break your jaw. I don't care. Boss, aakar aur do bullet, do marna tujhe. Again, Arun Lal the same. He used to stand at, forward short leg for Bengal. So batsmen, whenever you stand forward shot, like, they'll try and hit you out of the place.
Right.
Somebody will hit a ball, it'll hit him in the shin, it'll and then take one step closer. What do you do with guys like that? So Kumble belonged to that. He's just so tough that everyone else around him, you just got to take that and say that this guy's not going to give up. You better go along with him.
I by the way, interviewed Kumble, Ricky Ponting and Shane Bond. And I was like, hey, Ricky Ponting is going to be harder to interview because like what you've seen. And Anil Kumble was so intimidating because I didn't realize how tall and big he is. And I'm like, Kumble, I look like a tiny little baby talking to a giant man. I'm like, excuse me, sir, which way is the bathroom? Like, I don't know what to ask him. It's like very intimidating man. Last one is, of course, Kohli.
No, I think
I will add another one, Rohit Sharma, if you don't know.
No, I love Kohli's ability to change. Kohli is this good, proper, Delhi kid, Chiku, with his this thing. He's naughty. He treats women like his milieu. Okay, he's grown up. He's matured. He never thought fitness was important. He's become fit. He was a little chubby when he was a kid. He's become fit. He's learned how to captain. Just see how this dude from 2011 to 2018 has sculpted himself, changed himself. And he's always pushed himself. He's changed. He's looked at things. He's not been scared to admit that 2 years before I thought like this, but I don't think like that anymore. And that ability to change is so amazing. I mean, you always looked at him as this cocky Delhi kid. And I'm so delighted to say that we were all wrong. He proved everyone about him wrong. He's just taken himself so much further as a human being. And Rohit, I'll tell you a great example of Rohit. Rohit is playing IPL 2019, okay, the IPL that they won. KKR is playing against Mumbai. I think they're playing in Mumbai. They drop. Did they drop? I think they played and didn't do very much. This one is there in the team. Kuldeep Yadav in the KKR team. And he's having a tough time. That IPL has not been great for him. Moment the match finishes, everything else is on, he just grabs. Rohit comes quietly, grabs. Kuldeep takes him for a walk. They're talking cricket, strategy, World Cup mein kya hoga. He knows. Rohit knows that this guy is a really important bowler for us in the World Cup. We need his confidence up. We need him to be fully fit. We need him to be fully there for the World Cup. So he is not even, he's not even thinking ki ye Bombay ka hai, ye ke. So that, in that sense, Rohit's ability to be able to, emotionally relate with players and understand, especially younger players, what they need, what they don't need, how to support them. And he takes it far beyond his IPL loyalties and all that. And I think that's fantastic. Rohit will be a great India captain. If he gets a chance, he'll be a great India white ball.
I like the story where Rohit waited for the match to finish. In my head, I was like, is this going to happen before or after the match? He was like, we've won, now let's talk. It's a good captain, I guess. Angad, any last thing and then we'll just bounce.
No, I have more questions, but I understand we have already taken up a lot of his time.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about it. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhattacharya. I really appreciate your time. If there's anything you'd like to mention to tell people to go towards someplace and follow you, I think Cricbuzz Live and Twitter, again, as I mentioned, please follow him. Anything else? Happy to...
Just thanks for a lovely morning. Lovely to be with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks to everybody tuning in. Angad, do you have anything to promote? Any quizzes coming up? Anything?
Yeah, kuch nahi, just go like my channel. I have a lot of cricket stuff coming up. I also do a podcast and the quizzes are coming up every Monday, 8 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you so much, Angad. I'll just make concluding remarks so you guys can switch off your audio and video and do other ththings if you want, or leave the meeting, whatever you prefer.
Bye, buddy. Bye.
Bye. All right, just to tell you, we're trying to figure out the schedule for next week. Tuesday is Durjoy Datta, and I'm trying to get one more or two more authors. Saturday, Sunday, we're just figuring out the lineup. I'll announce it in a bit. Thanks, by the way, to everybody on Super Chat who sort of asked questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of your questions, so I'll just mention some of them. Shubhankar Verma, thanks a lot. I'm sorry we could answer your question. Jatin Verma, Suhas Parashar, Milo Kado, and anybody else. I'm sorry, as I said, it's impossible to get through all the super chats, but there are too many questions bouncing around. I will announce the lineup for the next couple of days. As I said, I'll be back on Saturday with some more stuff, and Sunday again, and then Tuesday is author day. And there's some interesting guests coming up, by the way. I am working on a lot of stuff based on your guys' suggestions. So in the comments, tell me who else you want to see. Some of you follow me on Twitter are aware of the people who I'm trying to get, and some of those people, I'm not going to say it yet until they confirm properly, are going to be there. So lots of people coming. A lot of you asking for Tanmay and a bunch of other comedians. All the comedians will come. It was entirely my fault. I completely forgot to confirm a date with Tanmay, but I'll lock a date with Tanmay and bring him. And all the other AIB boys, I'm trying to get Shrija back. I'm trying to get Andy Reghu, Shashi, Jia Sethi. There's a lot of people I'm trying to get, man. So lots of people will be coming over the next few days. Again, 16th of August, I have a show happening, which is Traveling Pants. So you can get tickets on sorabpanth.com. You can head there and get it there. And generally, thanks to everybody, man. Really, you guys are very sweet. And this entire podcast is running primarily and entirely because of you guys and your good graces. So we really appreciate it. And if you want to support this podcast, then go to InstaMojo and PayPal and support it directly. If you've not seen the previous podcast, I'll tell you who we've had so far. Abhishek Upamanyu, Bassi, Zakir Khan. We did a Delhi blowout, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen. Before that, there was one with Vipul Goyal and Nitin Gupta. Gaurav Kapoor and Jatin Sapru and Vikram Sate have come on one. Ramchandra Guha, Veer Sanghvi. There's one with Shrija and Bassi, which is awesome fun. Lots of stuff. Go and watch all of that stuff. We also did one with authors, which is with my sister Meghna Pant, Samit Basu, and Kautuk. We did one with the XNG boys day before yesterday. So lots of things, yeah. Manu Joseph and Jay Said Deepak have been popping up repeatedly. I am trying to figure it out. I'm working on a lot of things, right? So we're going to keep this going, and I'll see you guys on Saturday, man. Thanks a lot, and watch as I magically end this podcast in the next 25 seconds. Goodbye.